Hello everyone, welcome to a special podcast edition about the fitness industry.
Yeah, first ever podcast / YouTube video.
Yes, and we're going to go into depth about the fitness industry and how we think it could be damaging for individuals or a whole, as many people struggle with diet, with training, they struggle with just day-to-day life. So we're going to go into the in-depth of the fitness industry and about diet methodology, training, programming, that type of stuff. Just for you guys who don't know who we are, welcome to the channel. We're Grow Strength NX.
Hello.
This is Luke. Luke, would you like to give me a little breakdown of what you do and what you are, who you are?
I am a qualified personal trainer with years of fitness training in the background in fitness, and quite recently qualified as a personal trainer, but I've got extensive knowledge from other areas of my life.
Other areas of his life, indeed. So, myself, personal trainer and strength coach, few years in personal training itself. We've both, between us, trained hundreds of clients successfully, and of course, we've got them to hit different targets, different goals, sports goals, etc. I have a bit more of a sports background, come from some mixed martial arts, come from powerlifting and other areas as well from a younger age, but of course, that just kind of like puts me more in a sports perspective.
Yeah.
But overall today we're going to look at the fitness industry from terms of the ordinary individual.
Yes.
So we're not looking at it from a bodybuilding perspective.
It's the everyday average Joe.
Yeah.
And how they see the fitness industry, and sort of like how there tends to be like a fear factor in the fitness industry. So like new people entering a gym or entering that first step into a gym can be very, very scary for a person who's never done that before. So, and how the industry, things like Instagram, have really just created this persona that everyone has to be super fit and just 100% fantastic human all the time. It's just not the case.
Yeah, so social and economical climates, basically marketing, the way they advertise to you, what they trick you with, what are the right things to do and the wrong things to do, because it's a minefield.
It is.
It's a mess. And we're going to try and put it into a perspective how people should see the fitness industry and what's the real stuff in the fitness industry and what you should avoid.
Yeah, we do sort of touch on these things in our previous videos.
They're all over the place.
Yeah, so obviously if you're watching this on YouTube, you'll have the playlist extensively available to you. If you're listening to us on a podcast, check us out on YouTube, Grow Strength NX. We've got a few videos for you to check out on diets, calorie deficits, also training methods, all sorts of information to help you out.
And that's exactly what we want to touch on. So, in the last couple of videos, we both did transformations. 12-week, 6-week transformations, completely different diets, different frames of work, how we train, methodology. And we wanted to go over the insights of how our training and our diets could impact on a different individual who, let's say, is not as trained, who maybe doesn't have a good understanding of nutrition or knowledge. And we're going to kind of like break it down. So the last video we went across was Luke's video, the 12 weeks transformation. And I just want to kind of get an insight, Luke. What was it in particular that you felt about this program, this 12 weeks? What difficulties, what kind of things did you come across? Or what did you enjoy about it?
Well, first of all, I'll touch on why I did it.
Yeah.
Which was, I was getting asked a lot of questions about intermittent fasting. For some reason, over the course of like a 2 or 3 week period, there was 6 or 7 different people asking me about intermittent fasting. What is it? How do I do it? What's the benefits and pros and cons? I was like, I don't actually know. So I'm always honest with my clients, and I don't know. So I need to research it. Let me look into it. And I thought, rather than sitting there and reading what other people think, I just thought I'd do it myself for a few weeks and just see what happens.
Yeah.
So obviously I researched on different types, and like there's a 5-2 split where you do 5 days fasting, 2 days off, or 4 and 3. And so I did it for 12 weeks. I maintained a calorie maintenance. So for me, that was anywhere between 2,800 to 3,000 calories a day. Obviously, being in a gym, we are consistently active, so we need a lot more energy. So I wasn't in a deficit at any point. I was literally just eating my normal food. Now the pros for that was I didn't have any energy deficiency, so I could train consistently without any detriment to the weight I could lift or how long I could train for, because I was having the same amount of calories on a daily basis. Second pro was that because the way it works, you have an 8 hour window where you can eat 12 till 8. I was eating 12 p.m. till 8 p.m. Then that 16-hour window where I wasn't eating. Because the window is so short, you don't tend to snack, because by 12 o'clock when I get home from my bulk of morning clients, I was hammering my breakfast and my lunch at the same time pretty much. And for me, I look forward to that meal of sitting there and eating like 1,000, 1,500 calories in one go, which then I was full to like 4 or 5 o'clock. And before I was going back out, I was eating a little 300-400 calorie meal, then going home at like 7:30, 8 and eating again another 1,000 calories. But that for me, then there's no real time to snack because you're so full from those meals that the snacking element is completely gone. So I said in my previous video about snacking that if someone's looking to lose weight, not necessarily the way that fasting impacts your body and how it processes food, it simply just reduces the amount of calories you're eating because it's such a short window. And once you get past that first initial week of hunger in the morning, there's literally no real difference. You wake up, you don't need food.
So in a simplistic term, what is fasting? Like what is its literal term?
Well, fasting is, so after an 8 hour period of your body eating, so once you've eaten food, after 8 hours, that your body has processed and digested that food. At that point then, if you haven't eaten again in that 8 hour window, your body then goes into a fasted state where there's literally no nutrients in the body for it to process. So what then you're looking to do is remain in that fasted state for another 6 to 8 hours. So that's where that 16-hour window comes from. And the end goal of that is if your body has no carbohydrates have been consumed or digested or absorbed, so your body then targets the fat reserves and the fat storage to make up the energy that you're lacking. That's in the simple terms, that's what fasting is. That's the idea behind it.
Okay. So in short, speaking from a scientific perspective, there is evidence for and against that. A lot of positive evidence, of course. So, with every kind of regimen, with every kind of diet you go on, rigid diet or flexible diet, there is drawbacks to every single one, and it is down to the individual who it works for. So getting a good understanding of nutrition as a whole would be very good beforehand, would you say?
Yeah, so I wouldn't recommend fasting to every single person. It always depends on the person. So for me, or for Johnny, for example, it works perfectly for our lifestyle because we work from like 6 a.m. sometimes until 11, 12 o'clock. So from 8 till 11, you've eaten, you're full. Then you go to bed and you wake up, go straight to work and work for 5 hours or 4 hours. And then you go home, you've got a good 3-4 hours where you can just chill at home and eat. So it works perfectly for our lifestyle. But for someone who's in an office, who wakes up, then has his lunch at a set time, and only has a half an hour window to eat, it's very difficult to get that fasted diet in. It just doesn't work for everyone. And some people do literally need food in the morning.
Yeah. It's
just, it depends on the person. Like for me, I used to love breakfast, but I just reconditioned my body quite quickly not to need it anymore. But yeah, some people need it.
So people with more sedentary lifestyles, you would find maybe that it obviously the requirement of calorie range is definitely a factor. So
yes.
If you're looking at, say, an untrained person who's just stepped into the gym for the first time and they're just getting used to the movements, let's say they've got a basic program, they've now been given the fasted diet, what would you say the drawbacks would be for that particular individual? How would you find that they would,
I would say that if it's a brand new person to the gym, they've never really trained before, they've only started training, it's a lot to take on to learn about nutrition as well as trying to stick to such a regimented time frame of eating. So if you are new to the gym, I'd always recommend just eating as you normally eat that works well for your lifestyle, and just concentrate on getting those macronutrients right to start with, your proteins, your carbs and fats, get those nailed, then you start adding in your micronutrients. But to stick to how you like to eat and find healthy options of the foods you like, just to make it as fun and easy as possible. Then once you get to our level, where we're more educated, we know exactly what we can eat and can't eat, we can look at a piece of chicken and tell you exactly how much is there.
in terms of protein?
Yeah, in terms of protein. So we know what's going on and we haven't got to think about that aspect of it. We can then look at refining that a little bit more into a regimented diet. So it's always recommended. For me personally, I wouldn't roll this out to all my clients. I'd always make sure that I've educated them to a point where I know they can handle only eating at certain times of the day based on their lifestyle.
Cool. So looking at the aspect of, let's say, a different trainer, like a social media trainer, for instance, let's say a fitness influencer, someone who's on YouTube, maybe has never trained a client before, and they're obviously throwing out, you've got to do fasted, that's the only way to lose weight, etc., etc. Would you find that when that individual, let's say they do succeed in that 12-week process of doing a diet plan, would you say that that is a sustainable diet then onward? Do you think that will give you an understanding of nutrition enough to continue on eating well, or do you think that's down to the individual?
Well, it's down to the individual and how much they want to learn. So the times you're eating doesn't really factor, sort of contrary to what I've just said, but it's only factor into the knowledge you get from nutrition. But in terms of like your ability to learn and focus on learning side of things, it's harder if you're having to really regiment the times you're eating. So I mean, if someone on YouTube is telling people to do fasted diets because they're paid to do so, or they're just single-minded and they think this is the way I want to tell everyone to do things because that's what works for me, then it's not really, that's the problem with the industry, isn't it? It's people are pushed to do certain things and they don't know why. They're never educated as to why fast. Like, what's the point of it? Well, because this guy with loads of muscles told me to. He's probably never fasted in his life. I mean, fasting's only a thing for the last intermittent fasting, the last 5 years, a couple of years, it's come out as a big explosive thing.
Popularity in terms of like a religion.
Yeah, it's been actually for hundreds of years, thousands of years. But I mean, it's in terms of fitness, intermittent fasting, it's the only way forward.
Yeah.
Like I hadn't heard about it until I think Terry Crews. I saw him on Instagram once talking about it. That's the first one I heard about it. That's like 4 or 5 years ago.
Yeah, and just to kind of put it into perspective for you guys in terms of the fitness industry, how they generally work is, let's say they have a supplement, or let's say they have something that they have an agenda, they want to push certain foods on you, they want to become across as more popular, so they come up with a different scheme, let's say, and a lot of scientific evidence, even though a lot of it's positive, you've got to realise there's an agenda, because scientific evidence only usually goes out there when a particular marketer wants to put it out for them. So they generally fund the actual studies.
You only hear about it because they want you
to. So if obviously there were negative studies coming out for it, they wouldn't put it out because obviously it wouldn't be good for their current business model. So I suppose when it comes to these kind of diets, you would probably have to go and say, right, I need to think about what would work for me. Is this attainable for a long period of time? And let's say, for instance, like you've gone on social media and you've seen a before and after picture. So there's maybe hundreds of before and after pictures on this particular fitness influencer, and you think, oh my God, that's amazing, it works. So there's variables to it. So let's say that person has 1 million followers. I'm just going to put this in an example. Let's say every single person, 1 million followers, took on that diet, and there was only hundreds of pictures, not hundreds of thousands.
Yeah, that's the 1% of his followers.
So yeah, there's a very let's even say 5,000. That's still barely anything in terms of percentage of who it's successful for, or who sees really good success with. Maybe some people get variable results in terms of their lifestyle and how they sleep and what they do while they train.
Their mindset and the mindset to the diet. So again, a lot of people take on these diets, fad diets, and they think, it'll work. And then they get a week in, it's not working for them around their lifestyle because it's not designed for them specifically. It's not a diet. A diet should be specific to the person. Like a nutritionist wouldn't give every single person they work with the same diet. They give every single person a different diet based on their needs. So going on Instagram and saying, right, this guy says fasting is the way forward, so I'll do that. That's not a guarantee it's going to work for you because it's not designed for you. It's designed for him to get you to follow him. That's the difference.
So also going back kind of on the before and after pictures, those are 12-week image results. And we're not saying that they're necessarily doctored. We're not saying that they're professionally done in a sense where it's made for them to look really good. But let's say those people do get those results. We have to look at sustainability. We have to look at things afterwards. What is the lifestyle going forward? If you're in a constant calorie deficit, which most of them are because they're actually losing weight, which is the prerequisite for losing weight in anything, regardless of diet, you have to look at it. Are they going to continue on that path? And what are the side effects to that? What kind of problems are you going to come across?
Yeah, continuous calorie deficit. You're in a continuous energy deficit. So think about the long-term effects of that, of having just too little energy for the rest of your life. It's just not going to be sustainable, is it?
No, not at all.
No chance.
There's some mental variables to it as well. What if you develop some kind of disorder from that because you haven't given yourself that ability, that behavioural pattern to deal with or cope with something long term, and because you've done something short term, you're now in a constant cycle. And we hear this all the time of, I've lost this weight, and then 6 months later they come back and put it all back on and then some. Because they haven't created that behavioural pattern, that behavioural routine to get them into a sustained lifestyle. And we're not looking at diets anymore, we're looking at lifestyles. Diets were, I would say, better for people who are in the fitness industry, people who are well-trained athletes, people who need it to do it for boxing or some type of sporting event. I wouldn't say that these diets are good long-term for anyone. I could say that you could be on these diets, for the rest of your life, and there is always variables to that. But we need to look at a longer term solution. So the reason why we put these videos out, these 12 to 6 week transformations, is to show, yes, it is easy, or at least doable, to get to that where you want to be for a particular event, occasion.
But there are variables.
And what happens after that event?
Yeah, so touching on the variables being that me and Johnny have trained for years. So for us to go from, say not in a bad condition, but our body fat percentage wasn't where we'd want it to be. For us to go from that to the state we were in 6 to 12 weeks, it's a lot easier for us, because first we built the mindset that we can just go, right, diet time, I'm on it. From any day, we just I'm on it now, done. And we have the knowledge to just train and eat well and not impact our lives, because we're in the industry, we're surrounded by it every day, we're interested in it, so it's easy for us. Those are the variables. For someone who comes in, who works in an office, who's overweight, has no knowledge of nutrition, for them to go, right, I'm on it, it's not going to happen. So for 12, that person to get in shape in 12 weeks, it's not possible really, because they've got to literally change their entire lifestyle. And that's what Johnny's saying, is that lifestyle needs to change as a whole, not just, right, I'm going to eat less carbs for 6 weeks. That's what you're told to think, that's what educated to think, but it's not the case.
Yeah, you're pushed an agenda to shift product, and the fitness industry is really good at making you feel insecure. So social media, not just social media, but marketing, the way even supermarkets are mapped out to kind of push a particular agenda on you, whether it be supplements, whether it be pushing health foods on you. And the reason being why they do it is because they want to keep you in that state of insecurity, so you keep buying their products.
So fat burners.
Massive example. So those type of supplements aren't going to be sustainable long term, just because they're massively detrimental to your health. Lots of studies have gone into it, and fat burners all around, depending on, doesn't matter which one you do, is very unhealthy. So the behavioural patterns from social media that you develop is very unhealthy, because you're seeing the top 2% of the population in the Western society who are ripped. They are immersed in the fitness industry. They're selling you something that maybe they train completely differently, like Luke said. Maybe they even have behavioural problems themselves. If you think a social media influencer who is ripped and diced to the socks, are they healthy?
No.
Do they suffer
mental health wise, are they healthy?
Or even physically, what detriments is their diet having? And they're pushing that on you now, and they're creating the same problems, the same behavioural patterns. You could start suffering from body dysmorphia because you've become obsessed, anxiety from going into the gym, because there's certain aspects of it that just make you feel stressed. How are you going to feel comfortable?
Insecure, completely insecure. So what we're trying to get at here is that we don't want people to continue stressing about having to be in that perfect state, that perfect body, or what is the perfect body. It's not what you see on Instagram. It's a body that you're secure in. That's the difference. So in terms of these fad diets, 12-week cuts, yes, we did it. We are advocating a 12-week cut on our YouTube channel, but not for the reasons that everyone else is. We're doing it to show that, look, it is possible. This is how I did it. However, the variables are massive.
Yeah, if you're 30% body fat, don't expect to be able to get 10% body fat in 12 weeks.
Yeah.
If you're 14 to 16% body fat, it's doable. However, it does take a strict regimen, and people often go too strict too soon. So let's say you haven't created the behavioural patterns yet. You're a person who barely trained. You start going 6 times a week, which is probably a lot, even for most people. Even for people who are well trained, 6 times a week continuously is going to have adverse effects on your body. Now, on top of that, put it under a very rigid diet, something, let's say the traditional bodybuilding diet of rice, broccoli, and chicken. So, not only are you undernourishing yourself because you're not having a variety of foods, but you're not allowing yourself flexibility to eat 1 or 2 things every now and again that you enjoy. And because of that, after 2 weeks, the body doesn't respond necessarily straight away to a stimulus anyway, so you won't even notice 2 or 3 pounds come off your body, or you might not even notice a slight body composition change in that short space of time. So you assume it's not working, and then what happens? You eat.
You just go off, F it, and just eat everything you've got in the house, and just think, oh, there's no point. I'm obviously not going to ever. I'm the way I am. I can't lose weight, and just go nuts.
Full on beast mode.
But yeah, it's more yo-yo dieting, isn't it? That's what it is. You go too much too soon, and you're not looking at the long term. You're looking at the short term gain. So I've got to get thin for the wedding, so I was going to starve myself for 6 weeks, look super thin, and then as soon as I start eating again, just pound on the calories and put it all back on. Whereas I could think about the wedding 6 months in advance or a year in advance, and like, I've got that wedding next year. I'm going to put the effort in for the next year, build up my knowledge, and just be on it for the whole year and be consistent, and you'll see a gradual change in your body composition over a year. But a lot of people don't think about that long-term goal. They have the short-term, bang, I'm going to get 6 weeks, I'm going to get shredded.
Taking away from that aspect, trying to take away from that as well, is maybe you could change your whole dynamic towards training, and seeing your self-worth isn't based on your body shape or body composition. Your self-worth is how you're perceived to your friends, family, relationships.
What you offer to other people.
Yes, what you can offer to other people besides just looking good on the beach for a particular occasion, or looking good. Because let's face it, in a picture of 12 people on a wedding photo, you might look good, but I mean, to be honest, no one's going to see or care that much about your results in terms of your body composition. Maybe for that one photo, but quickly everyone forgets and it's back to regular life.
Yeah,
so
it wasn't worth it.
You can't be defined by your body composition. You've got more than that. What we're looking for is long-term health. We don't want to necessarily be six-pack chiseled, but if that's what you want, then obviously you can have that. But you've got to look at how sustainable that is, and what drawbacks it has. What kind of lifestyle changes do you have to make in order to get a six-pack? So now you have to stop drinking, or drink very little. You can't go out for meals very often. That could affect your relationship in other ways. You could be more agitated, you might not be sleeping, have arguments with your partners. There's so many variables that can create this horrible cycle. I'm sure many people who are watching this right now are probably nodding along.
Yes. Then there's also the flip side of that is you don't want to discourage people from exercising and getting into the fitness industry. It's what I'm trying to advocate here is the right for the average person, don't get too worked up over being like a massive bodybuilder or this fitness model, because unless you're getting paid millions of pounds to look like Zac Efron, like he is, and like in his Baywatch movies and stuff, he's getting paid millions of pounds to be in that like 5% body fat state he's in. And I even read an interview that he made about how miserable he was he said when you get breached that sort of 8% body fat, because you're so regimented on the food you can eat and the amount of food you can eat. He said I was literally miserable and just snapping at everyone all the time because my mental capacity, I just couldn't process things, and it was so difficult to stay in that state for the whole filming. But he got paid millions of pounds, so I'd do that for millions of pounds. But I wouldn't do that right now because I'm getting paid nothing. So, but I like chocolate, I like pizza, so I'm going to eat it. If it's there, I'm going to eat it. But I also train around the food I eat.
Yeah, and we also look at the amount. So when we kind of, so looking into behavioural patterns, so looking into cognitive behavioural patterns of how you can change your lifestyle. So we've kind of discussed like the drawbacks, but now I'm going to tell you, you know, how you can change your lifestyle.
Yes.
So I'll paint a small analogy for you. Give it a little paint. Let's say you go to the dentist twice a year.
Mm-hmm.
And when you go to the dentist twice a year, they look at your teeth and they go, yeah, looks good. However, the dentist hasn't actually done anything to make your teeth good. What's actually happened is you brush your teeth twice a day, 2 minutes per day. So imagine that in terms of training or diet. So you don't do it that much. Brushing your teeth takes 2 minutes. It's not that, you know, hard to do.
No.
You get into a pattern, don't you?
Yes.
You get into a routine of brushing your teeth like anything. However, if you brush your teeth for 6 hours one day, or let's say you go to the gym one day, you overdo it for 6 hours and you don't train for the rest of the week. And it's the same as a dentist. If you brush your teeth for 6 hours in one day, then don't brush your teeth for the rest of the week, you're still going to get cavities.
Mm-hmm.
So you've got to kind of have a more balanced approach towards training and diet.
Yeah. So 2 minutes twice a day is nothing. So an hour a day in the gym is 4% of your day.
Yeah.
To put it in perspective.
And even if it's, let's say for instance, like you're everyone's at different starting points. So let's say you're a severely overweight or obese person, and I'm not saying that in a horrible way. It's just that some people have got themselves to that point, but they need to make small behavioural patterns. Now you can't go into the gym an hour a day, you know, training all different types of things. Yeah. So what is the starting point? What do you start on?
You just get moving. Just move.
Very basic. So
go for a walk.
20 minutes a day of walking. Let's say, for instance, you can now walk to work, or maybe you can get yourself a push bike if you can manage it.
Yeah, build up to that.
Build up to it. And then maybe after a period of time, you can introduce yourself to a gym or a sport. And after that period of time, you can then get technically better. I would say, and I would recommend a trainer, because the trainers will get into better behavioural routines, better patterns.
A good trainer.
A good trainer, yes, of course. There's some bad trainers out there, but we like to think that a majority of the people can get them to a certain point. And looking at food, which is the biggest one. This is the biggest behavioural problem that most people have. It's not the training necessarily, it's the food. So what do you want to do? Small incremental changes.
Yes.
So you give an insight to what you do for your clients.
So I always recommend little changes at key points. So you start off with your breakfast. What are you having for breakfast? I'm having Cocoa Pops. Right, okay. Throw the Cocoa Pops away, they're full of sugar. Okay. I know you enjoy them, but you know they're full of sugar. So let's look at other things that you like that are healthy. So do you like oats? Yes, okay. So let's get oats, some fruit in there, also some milk, mixed nuts, seeds, whatever. Let's get a big bowl of healthy carbohydrates to set you up for the day that's got like 90% of the sugar in there that it has in a bowl of Cocoa Pops. Just then get that breakfast, that is your breakfast. The rest of it, just, I always say to them, like, sort your breakfast out and get that on a regimented basis. So every day, every night, you prep your breakfast ready for the next day. Then once that's like a regimented thing, after like 3 or 4 weeks, we then start looking at lunches. Okay, so when you're prepping your breakfast in the evenings, I want you to then start looking at your lunches. So let's add in, rather than going to the cafe and having a processed ham and cheese sandwich every day, let's make your own. You know, buy like healthiest options of cheese. You know, proper fresh ham, load it full of salad. That's fresh salad for you. Low fat mayonnaise, healthy bread like wholemeal, like granary seeded bread, and make a healthy sandwich for yourself.
Yeah, it's small.
Yeah, just small changes. And after a few weeks, once that's a regular thing, I obviously give you other options for different varieties of lunches. And then it's your dinner. So what are you doing for your evening meals? So how can we change that? What change can we make? And just build on it. If you change everything all at once, it becomes too much to process. Along with trying to make sure you go to the gym, it's just too much. So you need to have just that little bit each time.
Yeah, imagine you're driving a car for the first time, and you, in theory, know how to use the pedal, the accelerator, the gears, etc. In theory, you know how to do it, but in practicality, it takes time and experience to develop to be able to become a competent driver. If you went off and drove in a car on your own for the first time, I mean, the likelihood is you'll probably just stall it, not really go anywhere, but there is danger of you crashing and not doing it as well as could be.
Yes.
There was an analogy that Jeff Cavalier used, the terminology that he used with the plate sizes. So a lot of obviously a lot of people use a plate. They put mounds of carbs, mounds of food on there, and kind of just lowering the portion sizes. So make a quarter of your plate starchy carbs like pasta, rice, chips, whatever it is. You don't necessarily have to get rid of chips. You just have to half the amount. So you've got a quarter of the plate of starchy carbs. You've got half the plate full of veg, so nutrition, nutritious vitamins, and then a third, and then another third of that is protein, because although protein has the same calories as carbs, it fills you up more.
Yes.
So kind of a good way to do it is starchy carbs, you can eat a lot of it, but if you just make a smaller portion size, over time, you'll find that you don't necessarily have to eat, you don't have to eat any less throughout the day, you just eat slightly less per meal.
Yes.
And that's those small changes you can make right there.
Yes. And when he says a third of the plate, it doesn't mean a third pile.
With mounds.
It's like a flat. Before we get any ideas.
So, I mean, the small changes come from these slow cognitive patterns, and there will be drawbacks. You will slip up every now and again. We expect that. It's trial and error. You will make mistakes. But what you've got to understand is as long as you stay on track most of the time, over a small period of time, you'll find you won't be as hungry. You'll find that trainings will come slightly easier. You'll pick up patterns. You'll start to see results and goals. But try not to see it as a result. Try to see it as an ongoing process, like brushing your teeth. Something you do throughout your life that's maintainable and sustainable, not something that is going to just crash you out straight away. So if we're looking at diets as a whole, are they, so in your personal opinion, for the everyday person who's starting to train, what would you say? Would you say that diets are a good way of losing weight, but do you think that over a period of time it's not good for long term?
It's, in terms of a diet, so obviously diet's a broad term, isn't it? Like a diet or dieting.
Dieting, yes.
It's, when I think dieting, I'd say calorie deficit. Again, to my clients, it's calorie deficit. It's eating slightly less than your body needs. So you're getting that consistent calorie deficit, but not a detrimental calorie deficit. So it's not like a huge amount. So I think it works. Dieting, long term, it's not really effective because you don't want to have your life regimented in that way for the rest of your life. But dieting at the start is important, especially calorie counting and looking at what you're eating, because it educates you on what you can and can't eat and what those things do to your body and what calories they have in them. So dieting is important at the start, because otherwise you're just firing blind, aren't you?
Yeah, so for people who are intuitive eating, intuitive eating isn't good for a person who is overweight, because they obviously don't have
willpower.
They don't have a very good behavioural patterns towards their intuitive eating. To them, intuitive eating is eating when they want and not eating when they should.
And that's why those people hire personal trainers, because they need to be told.
Yes.
They need someone there to say, right, you can only eat this now for the next X amount of weeks. Then once that body then starts to change, they see the benefits of that, their body composition change, they build up more muscle, their metabolism gets stronger, they can then start working a bit more retreats. Like their diet then becomes a bit more loose because their body's conditioned more to those sort of things. So at the start, a diet is important.
Yes. Definitely. I would say that taking the ideology away of good and bad foods is probably a really good thing to do, because there is no such thing as sinful foods. There are just more nutritious and less nutritious foods. Every food, even processed foods, has its part in its life, because we are currently surrounded by more types of foods than ever. And we're not going to be able to cut them out completely unless you are so strict and you're regimented to such a point where you can maintain that throughout your life. And I would say that overall could create more problems, especially an obsessive compulsive disorder.
Yeah, but it's just about making healthier choices.
Yes.
So, for example, last night I went to see the new Spider-Man movie.
Oh, yeah.
I took my partner to Nando's, and I made a healthy choice at Nando's. So at the start of the day, I knew I was going to Nando's, so I tracked my calories. Thought, right, I'm going to Nando's. I tracked half chicken, spicy rice, and super grains. I knew that's what I was going to have. So I tracked it in my calories, and I thought, right, that's X amount, so I've got left to spend this much. So I then worked out what I'm going to have for breakfast and what I'm going to have for lunch, based on those calories that were left. And I left 500 calories at the bottom for snacks in the cinema in case I wanted them. So that was my healthy option was Nando's. That's a good protein, carbs, my vegetables, my micronutrients. Perfect meal really, chicken, rice and veg effectively. I had my breakfast, was healthy, my lunch was healthy, oats, I had like a tuna salad for lunch, and then I had a small bag of popcorn in the cinema because I wanted it.
Yeah.
But I trained that day, I knew I was going out, so I did an extra bit of cardio workouts, so some boxing, to make sure that I was sort of burning off a bit more of an output really in anticipation for that. So I made healthy choices on that day.
Yeah, and if for those of you out there who are in a big belief of intuitive eating is okay, and that calorie counting is bad for you, and that it's psychologically damaging for you, you've got to think of the obesity epidemic as it stands.
Yeah.
There is in the UK alone, there is nearly 90% is overweight or obese, and that is an extremely high amount. So if you're tracking calories, yes, it can be a detriment to your mental health if you get very conscious about it and you're constantly doing it. And yes, the calories are based on an average. They're not precise, but they're based on an average. But an average is better than being overweight or obese. And to be honest, I'd rather get you into behavioural patterns where you're able to lose a lot of weight as opposed to have a slight insecurity about calories and maybe counting them becomes a bit much. If, however, after a period of time, right, with counting calories and it is becoming an insecurity, the good thing about counting calories is you're getting an understanding of nutrition.
Yes. So you can have a break.
Yeah, you can have a break, but you intuitively know what a calorie is, how much protein goes in this, because you've seen the numbers on the calorie counters.
Yeah. So I know I can spend a few days of not counting, not tracking.
Yeah.
But when I'm eating, I know I'm about right. So I'm about 2,500, 2,800. I'm in the ballpark figure.
Yeah.
And I know I've had enough protein because I've had like a big piece of chicken, I've had a piece of steak for dinner, and I've had, even a protein shake or whatever. I know I've had enough protein because in my head, I've counted that.
Yeah.
Because I know what that food looks like.
So Luke intuitively knows because he has tracked his calories for years. Those of you that might know Luke personally, you might know that maybe when you were younger that you wasn't always the same weight. Is that?
No. And it was I was slightly overweight as a kid.
Right.
That was resolved by me making a choice. I was like 14, I think, and I just decided to cut out fizzy drinks.
Okay.
I literally I had a big bottle of cordial in the fridge. So rather than going and get a bottle of Pepsi, I'd get the cordial bottle, and that's what I pour in the glass. So it wasn't any more effort to have that drink. And I stopped eating sweets like every day, in school and stuff. So I just had one pack on a Friday. That's literally all I changed, and my weight just stripped off me.
Small amounts over time.
But at 14 as well, my metabolism would have been through the roof anyway.
Yeah, it was faster.
But
for those of you who think your metabolism is actually slower when you're overweight, that's actually false as well. Actually, your metabolism is higher because you're trying to burn off more calories because you're consuming way above your actual calorie amount.
Your body's constantly just like going.
So you cannot use slow metabolism as an excuse for your obesity, which is the next point I want to come across is accountability. Accountability is like anything else from, if you're an alcoholic or if you're someone who's got a gambling addiction, what you want to look at it is having accountability to understand that you do have a problem. That's the first step. Having a disassociation with, oh, it's okay because I have a life, you don't because you exercise is just another excuse you make because you don't want to try. And I'm not saying that in a horrible way. We all have, our hang-ups, and sometimes we're fearful of what we have to get into, the real changes that we have to make. So
nobody likes change.
No, and it's hard sometimes, and it does require real effort. And we're not saying that all these processes are easy, and they can take months, if not years, to develop this. Want to look at the social media aspect, and they want to see that instant results. They want to see fat burners. They want to see things that attribute barriers, things that work overnight.
Yeah.
And none of them do it, or if they do, they're not sustainable for a long period of time.
No.
The only real way you're going to do it is to be A, accountable for yourself, B, to make small incremental changes, and then over time you can finally start to see a slow progression, a slow change, and then it will get to a point where you want to be. And by this point, you've already got such a good understanding of nutrition, of training, and you can now continue on for the rest of your life. And we don't want you to stop, because the moment you stop is the moment it could start shifting back in the other direction.
Yes, but then we'll get to a point. I think we'll sort of wrap up now, but it basically gets to the point where you'll get to that that tipping point where you'll be so far down the rabbit hole in terms of the fitness industry that it then becomes very difficult to turn back, because your mindset completely changes, where it's hard to not exercise, and it's hard not, because you've put on your group of friends that are more active, do more healthier things, and then your social life then just become more around active fitness. So it eventually, you just keep at it, your entire mindset will change, and it's very difficult to turn back anyway. Just keep at it.
I could give you the biological terms of that. So the biochemistry in your brain, in terms of, I'm going to use it in a couple of different aspects before we wrap up, is the social media term. So when in your brain chemistry, so you've got serotonin and dopamine, which are the same things you get from sex, chocolate, exercise. When you get on social media and you're liking posts and you put up regular posts, when you get someone liking your post, you get the same neuro response from achieving something, i.e. a training session in the gym, that like becomes like an achievement, and your literal biochemistry changes. So everyday life seems a little bit less fun.
Yeah.
It seems like you're numb, and actually going on social media quite a lot can be really severely damaging for your health, especially from a fitness point of view. So I would recommend, before you put that six-pack abs and you've got a wall of people that you aspire to and admire, I would recommend taking that down and taking 2 or 3 hours a night away from social media. Put your phone in a different room, or even on silent or whatever. You can maybe answer it for messages, but do not go on social media all the time. It's not good for your overall mental health, and it does change your biochemistry into such a way that it makes other aspects of your life dull, and then you won't want to achieve anything, because all your effort is going into a digital life, yes, which you're now getting a falsified achievements from something that doesn't really mean anything.
Yeah.
And now you're never going to achieve anything. Well, not never, but you're less likely to achieve things in real life when the social media aspect comes in. So if you just limit that a little bit, get your 8 hours of sleep, it will change your brain chemistry to the point where you'll start to want to make those dopamine and serotonin responses, which are happy chemicals, and less anxiety in your body, when you will want to achieve real things in your life, where it comes to fitness, where it comes to getting a new job, or going on that holiday you've always wanted. Stop focusing on body image as the main goal, because that's only going to put you back into that category. You've got to focus on your other aspects of your life, and it will all start to come into play. So
enjoy yourself.
Yeah, being accountable and enjoying yourself is the main kind of takeaway we're going to take away from this. Looking at the whole perspective of the fitness industry, they are there to sell. They are there to market. They want to sell you and shovel you rubbish. Anything that's processed, we've said this in our previous videos, is like, from a supplementary point of view, 95% of them don't work at all.
Yeah.
And the 5% that do work so little and incremental, barely worth having.
Yeah, and the ones that do work normally contain anything you can get from food anyway.
Exactly.
So you might as well just get it from food.
Exactly.
And enjoy your food.
In 60 million people in the UK, 20 million people actually have a gym membership. Out of that 50% of people, 20 million, only 50% of them turn up more than 100 times per year. So if you average that out, that's 2 times per week. So if you are working out 2 times per week, you are in the higher percentage of people.
Yeah.
However, 90% of the UK, like I've said, or nearly 90%, is obese or overweight. So don't worry if you're overweight and in the gym, because let's face it,
you're already in a winning position.
You're already in the top 10% of the UK if you're trying to achieve a healthy body weight.
Please just keep going.
Just keep going.
Do not stop.
Yes.
And that's it from us.
Yes, podcast number 1.
Yeah, podcast number 1. So we'll put the info out on the podcast so you can check it out. And podcasters, we'll put the YouTube information out on there, so you can check that out.
And I want to take the time to say thank you for those of you who've watched the video all the way through. I hope you've taken something from this. And if you do know anyone out there that is struggling, the same way that 50 million people are struggling in the UK or in the Western world.
Yeah.
Please share it out there, because
Yeah.
if you don't, we're only going to kind of like work off each other in that negative platform.
Exactly. We want to help people. That's what we're here
Yes. Is there anything that you want to say before we wrap up?
for. No. Share.
Share. Okay, bye everyone.